Daniel. This is Jiquan. This is Rena, and I'm Yuan. Our point is youth employment undermines growth and productivity. There are 4 parts of our presentation: the definition, introduction, short-term effect, long-term effect, and the conclusion. So I'm going to give the definition of the youth employment. The youth employment is the preparation of the youth labor force, that is employment. The young people are defined as the people who are aged from 15 to 24, and unemployment are defined as the people who are out of work, actively seeking the work, or now available for the work. So secondly, I will introduce the trend of the unemployment. The International Labour Organization published the employment trend of youth. And now I'm going to highlight the trend of youth employment. First, the financial crisis led to a substantial increase in youth employment rates. Secondly, that the youth employment rates increased greater than the adult unemployment. Thirdly, the report has predicted a long recovery for youth and adults in the labor market. Now, I will use these 2 figures to introduce the trend. Now you can see 2007 to 2010 are the economic crisis. And there's an estimated that there are 12.7 million people are struggling to find a decent job in 2010, which is 4.6 greater than 2007. Also, the unemployment rates increased sharply during this period. Also, the specter, see the figure 2, the specter of youth employment has continued to worsen in the developed economics and the Euro unions. And also, the Middle East and the South Asia, which have suffered a lot from the financial crisis period. Next, let's Daniel introduce the short-term effect.
Thank you, Yuan, for the introduction. So I'm going to talk about the short-term effects of youth unemployment. So I'll start with the social costs. So basically I wanted to emphasize that we're at risk of creating a lost generation of young people who can't find work and will have trouble finding work in the future because they can't find such work when they're young. So some of the effects of youth unemployment include increased dependence on government for programs such as welfare and unemployment benefits, as well as an increase in crime, idleness, and atrophy of skills that you've lost since you've been out of school, either college or high school. And another example of social costs from high unemployment can be seen in the Arab world through Arab Spring, where those nations have unusually high unemployment rates, and we can see that their revolutions have been a direct result of angry youth. However, this trend of angry youth is not just in the Middle East, but also in London. And over the summer in London, we saw how these angry youths rioted in one of the poorest neighborhoods of London, which also has higher youth unemployment rates. And we can also see these effects in Occupy Wall Street in the United States. There are also some economic costs of high youth unemployment, most of which come as a result of more benefits granted to the youth. So, for example, Germany, Finland, and Ireland are giving benefits to all their youths, and we can see here with this graph that unemployment benefits are becoming a huge burden on countries which already have huge debt problems. Also, in the short run, we can see that the ILO projections for overall employment rates are going down. However, we have to adjust for these because in reality, many youths are giving up looking for jobs by going home and living with their parents, or heading out in terms of going back to school. So in reality, the people who are leaving the market altogether make the unemployment rate look like it's smaller, when in reality it's going up. And Another impact of such high youth unemployment is that 44% of 77% of those between ages 18 and 29 have delayed major life changes, and these have a direct impact on the entire economic recovery in terms of the housing market, which has to rebound, which also relies heavily on the youth, as well as saving for retirement and going back to school.
Hi, everybody. Imagine if you can't find a job after your graduation, what's your feeling? You may feel anxious, less confident, and feel lonely. And this emotion will have a negative impact on your daily life and lower your productivity. The personal productivity is related to the social labor productivity. As we know, the social labor productivity is related to the output of our economy. So that means this psychological factor will lower productivity. Now let's take a look at GDP growth versus employment rate. It can be easily found that these two curves move toward a different trend. The higher youth unemployment rate and the lower GDP growth rate. So how did it happen? And how youth unemployment will have a long effect on our economy? The less job available in the market will force youth to go abroad to seek for a job. As the figure shows, most of migrants in last year are highly educated youth who are necessary power for our economic recovery in the next generation. When the economy goes up, the demand of labor will go up, but the lack of youth will undermine the recovery of economy. Furthermore, the longer time they are not employed, the less likely they will get a job in the future, since they are losing their competitiveness and the skills if they are not engaged in the job market. Now let's look at consumption and the tax market. The lower expectation of future income will cause the decrease in consumption. The company will receive less sales revenue in the future, and they are not willing to invest more today. So the government will also receive less tax revenue and spending less in the future. Finally, I want to talk about the rapidly aging population. As we know, the developed country are suffering from the rapidly aging population. So more and more pension should be paid to those who has retired. The youth unemployment will enlarge the gap of pension fund. So the government has to spend extra money to support the pension fund. Now let me introduce my teammate Rona to introduce about other facts about in long term.
Thank you, Jiwon. I'm going to walk you through the rest of the long-term effects and the conclusion. So we can see here, opportunity cost and waste of educational resources. This means when there's limited supply of jobs for the youth in the market, they'll be forced to go back to school with this feeling that they'll get a job as soon as they graduate. But when they graduate, there's a long spell of unemployment. So they go back to ask for these jobs, and they're asking them for experience. So what what they'll do is they'll go and get the less qualified jobs, and this shows that their educational resources are being wasted. And lost jobs and decrease in wages. When the youth are unemployed, that means after they graduate, their wages their future wages will reduce by 6 to 7%, because they won't have the experience that is needed for the job. And if you can imagine, someone out of school with experience and someone who's out of school without experience, you both get the same job. The other one gets paid more than you do because they have the experience, and you're applying for the same job. Then past unemployment, future unemployment. This increases the spell. If you're unemployed in the past and you apply for a job in the future, you will take longer than a person who was employed in the past. To sum it all up, our short-term effects, we had social costs like drugs and violence. Then we had economic costs like government benefits, like unemployment benefits and food stamps. And then we had decrease in productivity, opportunity cost, and waste of educational resources, and reduced wages. Then youth unemployment has a cyclical effect. When the youth are employed, there's increased spending of goods and services because they are getting more income. So when they spend on goods and services, demand goes up, and then productivity goes up. This leads to business growth and expansion. And on the other side, we see that when the youth are employed, savings and investments are increasing, which increases the pool of capital and the money available for enterprises to invest. So all this leads to business growth and expansion. When there's business growth and expansion, that means there's increased demand for labor. And the increased demand for labor will lead to taxable income will increase, and then government revenue will increase in the long run. So thank you very much. That's the end of our argument.